The best way to know if your product sucks is if you don't use it. Alex Hormozi will be like, oh, if you're a small business owner, like brick and mortar, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of who he targets is internet businesses. I was talking to Tai Lopez and I asked him, I was like, do you do these effective theatrics on purpose because you know it's going to convert? And he said, I've always just been a marketer.
Anyway, this is one of the stories I picked up from me, like just having my stories Telegram chat, and I just write about things I do. Our podcast is probably going to be a story that I wrote about, which will probably not turn into an email, which will probably turn into money, right? So I'm a big fan of setting up that reminder every day, 1 or 2 sentences of what happened, and you're going to become a better storyteller, which actually makes you a better moneymaker. Because if you can tell stories, it's like you are Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception. Ever watch that movie? Leonardo DiCaprio has an idea that he wants to put into some CEO's brain. So he goes deep into this guy's dreams and puts that idea. That's stories for you. When you have a story, you can really pin an idea and you can really program people from deep within. And if you want to get good at that, which if you're in the money-making business, you probably want to, it's a good idea to just remember the 1 or 2 sentences you do every day, and eventually that log of stories keeps building up, makes you an incredible marketer that nobody can copy because those stories are your own.
You want to hear there's some good examples of inception that people use in marketing. This is like the dark arts of marketing that I don't really see a lot of people talking about. So like, for example, my tweet today, like that, and this is not as extreme of an example, but for example, I made the tweet with the Sydney Sweeney meme, and it's like when you tell her about your onboarding process that lets you nail the client voice. You know, that might just seem like, oh, it's a meme and it's like he's just talking about his onboarding process and he's just proud of it. No, what it really is doing is incepting the idea into the 0.2% of my audience that cares, that might be a good prospect, is them incepting the idea that I have a different in-depth onboarding process than other people, and I can actually nail people's voice. And the point of that is to prove to people that ghostwriting can actually nail your voice. I can actually nail your voice unlike everybody else in this industry. I can actually do that because I have the caps lock onboarding process for the birdhouse onboarding, the onboarding, by the way. That's actually what I call it.
Caps lock it?
Yeah, it's caps locked. I have the onboarding because I have that proprietary IP. I can actually nail your voice. So that was the point of that meme, is to incept that into 0.001% of my audience's mind. But something, for example, that I've noticed is like Alex Hormozi. So he talks about bing.
Well, listen, if it were the second podcast, you would have lasted 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an improvement.
Yeah. Like, for example, right? Or even Tai Lopez, right? The way, or actually, here's another one. It's like Gary Vee. But the way they talk about, and they kind of do a very nonchalant. Alex Hormozi will be like, oh, if you're a small business owner, like brick and mortar, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of who he targets is internet businesses. So it's like he's almost incepting the fact that he's bigger than just the internet by talking about small businesses in his content. So he's talking about small business to kind of build authority that I work with all types of businesses. And he's bringing in internet marketer because the internet marketers, this guy's different. This guy's an authority because he's working with small businesses. So it's a way you have to incept your authority. You have to incept your product. There's so many ways that people do this in marketing. It's a very complicated thing, but I think the best marketers know how to incept these ideas into their audience, and it lets them build not only a cult following, but it also lets them convert those audience members into buyers.
I'll add one thing to that. I think it's they know how to do it, but also they do it automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So when you type, right? Unless you type like this, you know that pinky goes to the Q and this one goes to the W. You know, kind of like where things go. It's like in between. So when Marcos is speaking right now, it's like the best marketers know how to incept this, and they caps lock it, and they use these terms, and they assume they're better than the internet. It's like you when you are writing, you know that this goes to the Q, this goes to the W, and like that's kind of how you write. It's things that are already like habits, things in you. So when he is speaking, sometimes like when he was saying that, I felt really inadequate. I'm like, I don't really think about this kind of shit. I just kind of like try to market, you know? it's because the marketers know how to do it, but it's also a habit that they instill. And I think that that's kind of how that's how it like mastery is the things that you do without thinking.
The perfect example of this is I was talking to Tai Lopez and I asked him, I was like, do you purposely do these effective theatrics? And I've spoken about this maybe like 10, 20 episodes ago. I call it effective. I caps locked it. And I think caps locking makes me help. It helps me learn, not learn. It helps me remember things. So I call it effective theatrics, capital E, capital T. So when I think effective theatrics, I think of Tai Lopez here in my garage with my Lamborghini with all these books that I just bought to fill up this bookshelf. It's like his iconic ad.
So unnecessary to have a bookshelf on your garage.
And then I think of Sam Ovens, right? He puts on a blue suit and he's at the high rise, and he's nothing like that. If you actually now watch him, he's nothing like that. But it's effective theatrics. It's marketing. And I asked him and I said, Tai, do you do this on purpose? Do you, and Andrew Tate, he does the same thing, the effective theatrics. Do you do these effective theatrics on purpose because you know it's going to convert? And he said, well, Marcos, I've always just been a marketer. I've always been a marketer. And I think what he meant by that is he just does it unconsciously. It wasn't super deliberate where it was like, I'm doing this on purpose. It's a grand master plan, blah, blah, blah. He's just like, I've always been a marketer. And I think that's what you're saying, where when you're so good at marketing, it becomes unconscious. Like you think, like we said this earlier, we were like, we think in tweets. Like we were talking and it was, I was like, you're basically just like a Google Docs guy, like not a landing page guy. And he said, ooh, I got to tweet that. Google Docs BF landing page GF. And then I took a picture of him. So like we think in tweets. And I think,
you know what my girlfriend does?
What?
Landing pages.
Does she?
Yeah, like websites.
So like that's what, if you really want to hit that next level. So this is, we talked about maybe at the 20-minute mark, if you're a skipper, a header, if you got to that and you heard Super Saiyan 1, this is Super Saiyan 2. Super Saiyan 1 is when you can mix content pillars together and kind of create these marketing angles using multiple pillars from content pillars. Super Saiyan 2, and this is where your hair gets real long and you really get a power up. And we're speaking in Dragon Ball Z terms because we like anime. Super Saiyan 2 of marketing is when you can now think in tweets. You think when you walk down, or when you walk around the gym in between sets, you're like, oh, that was a good story. I'm going to write it in my Telegram. Or like when I say something to you over our morning coffee, you're like, that's a good tweet. That's a good tweet. It's because we're thinking in hooks. We're thinking in tweets. We're thinking in call to actions. We're thinking in ideas. We're not just thinking to think. I think that's Super Saiyan 2 marketing.
I think you'll everyone has it. They just haven't grabbed it. That's a tweet. So it's like Dan Go posted this. By the way, Dan Go, really good marketer. I know he's about fitness, but like if you can study him, he's really good at marketing. But Dan, he said, if you can think, you can tweet or post or whatever, right? We just have a lot of thoughts. Like I don't know if you guys have ever gone on a Zoom call or somebody calls you because you broke up with whoever, and you're trying to give them advice, and then you give them advice even though you haven't been in that situation, and you're like, damn, that was some fire advice. I'm so good at this, right? That's a tweet, right? Yeah. We just don't recall it from the things that we do, which is where the story worthy exercise comes in clutch that can help.
Yeah, I tried to do it for a little bit where I just only tweeted when I thought the tweet, but what I found myself doing was putting half tweets in the draft, because what would happen is I would get all my ideas, my best ideas, and still to this day, I get all my best ideas on my calls with my clients and on sales calls and calls with my team. But I'm not like pausing a sales call or pausing a client call or pausing a team call to go make the tweet. So what I have, and I stole this from you, I had this for like a very long time, was having an assistant go and record all of the great things. And it was actually the questions I got into a Google Doc. I think the next level of that is recording the highlights of my calls into a Google Doc in form of tweets. And I think that is probably the best way I'll be able to get those thoughts into tweets, is by going back and watching my call recordings and then just transcribing it into tweets. Because that's when I get the most fire in those calls. And like even in these podcasts, how many tweets have I said how many things have we said that could be good tweets, good threads, and good long form stories, etc. And like, I think this is also what we do for clients. So now we're dropping sauce.
Yeah.
Well, here's some sauce.
Isn't there like an AI that can do that for you?
It's so bad. Yeah. So So here's the AI way, and then here's the ghostwriter way. So the AI way is to go into these podcasts or YouTube videos, download the Chrome extension GLASP, GLASP. It will automatically not only take the transcription, but it'll plug it into ChatGPT, and you can summarize the transcription automatically. And it'll give you the key points. It'll turn it into a framework, etc. And then you can use that to write threads and whatnot. That's the AI way, but it's super robot-y. The ghostwriter way is to sit there and watch this on 1.5x. And this is why we really love clients who do podcasts. We love clients who do podcasts or go on podcasts or even do YouTube videos. The clients who do video have the best written because we don't have to create so much stuff from scratch that it doesn't really create a unique voice. We can take what they're saying and turn it into, we can caps lock what they're saying basically. So it's funny because you really can't skip around in this podcast. It's so chronological. So if you're here and you haven't listened to the first hour, you need to listen in important because now we're using context from the beginning of the podcast. So if you caps lock the things that are in the videos, you can turn them into thread frameworks. You could turn them into carousel frameworks, etc. And they hit really hard on social media. And Julia was just telling you her thread carousels are doing really well. And that's why. It's because we're basically caps locking the things she's saying in her podcast, the things she's saying in her videos, the things she's saying in her shorts, etc., etc., etc. But the ghostwriter way is to watch it on 1.5x and just find things that you can caps lock, find things that you can turn into templatable tweets, almost good banger tweets. And this is where the swipe file comes in handy. A swipe file gives you really good structures for banger tweets and really good structures for viral threads, but it's never going to give you the idea because you can't copy someone's story.
Done. Yes, this is what I think about AI. I think AI is excellent for shooting, not good at aiming. That's a tweet. So if you come up with the idea and you let the AI develop it, excellent. But if you let AI come to the idea, that removes the personalization aspect, which is like you're gonna stand out being you. Like your goal shouldn't be to be the best in the niche. It should be the only in the niche. So it should be about being you. AI can't be you. So if you outsource the aim, you're fucking it up. If you outsource the shooting, that's a better idea.
Yeah. And this is actually, I don't know if I talked about this on the last podcast, but did I talk about how Elon Musk uses Twitter, but Zuckerberg doesn't use Threads, and that's why it's a better product?
You didn't, honey.
All right. So I'll talk about it. The best way to know if your product sucks is if you don't use it. And the reason that Threads sucks is because Zuckerberg doesn't even use Threads. There was like a long period where he didn't write a post, a thread, a tweet. There's a long period where he didn't even use it. Elon Musk uses Twitter all day, every day. And Elon Musk drives a Tesla. And Elon Musk, et cetera, right? He uses his own products. It's almost like he's building the product for himself. And if you can tangent this to Rick Rubin, when he was talking to Kanye, he's like, your song should never, like, no one should be able to replicate this. You need to make it for you.
Yeah, he said, if your song could be on somebody else's album, it can't be on your record.
Exactly. And I think you should think that way for your product. And this is where it clicked for me, is like, how can I do what I'm doing and not even be my own client? So I'm now becoming a client of the Birdhouse. Not just me writing my own stuff. I want to be a client. I want to go through my own onboarding process. I want to be my own client that puts out, I want to be a client that gets content from the Birdhouse. I want the automation. I want the sales process. I want everything, because if it's good enough for me, it can be good enough for someone else.
Maybe that's why you don't believe in newsletters, or you're bearish on them.
That's exactly why. It's because I don't like them.
Yeah, I love them.
But I do know that they work. And I think there's also a certain point where you have to bite the bullet and be like, and I think this is what makes a good CEO a great CEO. I think what separates a good CEO from a great CEO is a good CEO will not only do the product for themselves and use it and it's good enough for them. A great CEO will add something to their product and make decisions based on the customer and not just themselves. So I think I don't like newsletters, but I have to be smart enough and a good enough CEO to know that data says that they work and I know my clients want them. So it would be doing a disservice to my team to not at least think about adding email services. Because if it's money on the table, money for my clients, good results, my team can do it easily, I can pay my team more, I get better results, right? Like, just because I don't like newsletters, you know what I mean? That's like Elon Musk. If there's a Tesla and he's like, well, I like these tires. Well, these other tires are cheaper to make. You're going to sell more cars. They have better traction. They're going to cause less accidents. But because Elon Musk doesn't like them, we're not going to put them in. So I think that's what separates a good CEO from a great CEO, in my opinion.
Do you like podcasts?
Doing them or listening?
Listening.
Love podcasts.
Done.
I'm very picky, though. I'm very picky.
What are some good ones? Which ones do you like?
So my current lineup for podcasts is, I don't listen to it that much, but I do have the Hormozi podcast. Like, the Hormozi podcast isn't really a podcast, so it's like I'll listen to it here and there. 3. Joe Rogan. And the reason I like the Joe Rogan one, and this is actually a Sam Ovens quote. Sam Ovens, Joe Rogan, you guys should be, I should be getting commission for how many times I mentioned you. But Sam Ovens said that he drives a Tesla and uses Apple. Why? Because I always want to be using the best products because it puts me in a mind of innovation. If I'm always using the best products, I'm always in the state of innovation for myself and my own products. That's what pushed me over the edge to getting a Tesla and using the best of everything. I have an iPhone 15. I have a brand new MacBook. I have a Tesla. If you're always in a state of innovation, you will innovate for yourself and your own products. But some podcasts I like are the Joe Rogan one. He's the best podcast in the world. So you have to listen to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I like that one.
If you have your own podcast and you don't listen to Joe Rogan, how can you be serious? Like, at least sometimes, and I don't listen to every episode. I listen to the episodes for people I like. So the Joe Rogan podcast, I stopped listening to Lex Friedman. Nothing against him, but it's just it's so slow. Yeah. So unless like Elon Musk is the guest or someone that's really cool that I like is the guest, I won't listen.
When people are thinking, when they talk about it in like big terms, I tune out. This is why I can't listen to Huberman.
I don't listen to Huberman.
Did you know about the XYZ 123 Cortex? No. And I don't care.
Well, that's why I like Joe Rogan's podcast, because Joe Rogan, he's the kind of person that he'll bring on like a PhD quadruple doctor, like Super Saiyan 5. And then the doctor will say, my cerebral cortex, blah, blah, blah. And Joe Rogan's like, so brain do this when I do this. He's one of us.
Yeah, he's one of us.
He dumbs it down for us, which is why I like it. Whereas the Lex Friedman podcast is kind of like two really smart people talking. So you kind of just don't even know what they're talking about. So those are the main ones.
Rogan is in ESTP.
Oh, wow. He's you, but extroverted.
Yeah, he's me, but extroverted. Like, we just want the simple things. Bro, can we talk about MBTI?
Yeah, real quick, just to finish the list, because I know there's some marketers listening. I really like Eric Sue's podcast. He's a big marketing agency owner. He's had a lot of big people on his podcast too, like Mark Manson, Subtlewire, Not Giving a Fuck, some other people. Eric Sue's a big agency owner, so I like his podcast. And then that's really it, to be honest. Like, those are my main ones. And then I'll usually just listen to new one that I've been listening to. I am the name's slipping me, but my phone's on the camera. You know the Ozark, the show?
I know of it.
So Jason Bateman, the main character, he's in a ton of movies. He has a podcast, and his guests are so cool. Steph Curry, Selena Gomez.
No way.
Yeah. It's the coolest podcast. I forget what it's called. I think it's like Spaceless or something like that. That podcast, when my friend told me about it, I was like, that's a good one for entertainment. Because it's just, I love podcasts that have guests where you're like, where else am I going to be able to listen to this person on a podcast?
Yeah.
And so, Selena Gomez is one of the top 10 most followed people in the world. Steph Curry, one of the most followed people in America. So that's a cool podcast.
Well, I haven't seen that one.
It's a very small curated list.
I'll occasionally listen to My First Million.
Oh yeah, I don't listen to it anymore, but I do listen to the clips.
My First Million, it just gets me shiny object syndrome like crazy.
That's why I stopped listening.
Yeah, they're like, I'm like, I'm running this business, and I'm like, bro, why are we not selling garbage trucks right now? Like, that's the future, clearly.
That's funny.
Right? We should totally start an AI newsletter.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Podcasts are all about your season too. Like, it just depends. I know you hate that word, but it just depends.
What season are you in, Marcos? The season of In the Trenches?
I'm in the trenches. I like little nuggets now, or entertainment, no in between. Like, if it's something like that where it's like, if I just exited my business, My First Million would be a great podcast, because you get all the ideas in the world and you get your juices flowing. But right now, like, that's not what I need to hear. So I usually have entertainment, and then the ones that are going to give me some tactical advice, and that's it.
My YouTube feed is all Super Smash Brothers. Naruto, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Same. Mine's anime, Jujutsu Kaisen, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, etc. And then it's like chess, and then it's like Call of Duty, and then it's like Sam Hobbits. That's like my whole YouTube feed.
I think it's important to
in Jujutsu.
you know what's really interesting? I usually get maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 views on my shorts. I'll say like 1,000.
What do you get now?
There was one, no, like usually it's like 1,000, right? But there was one that got 4,000 and 190 likes. So, but not many comments. So maybe that tells me that some people resonated with that. So I want to bring it up again. I muted I muted like the Hormozis. I muted a bunch of typical guru stuff because I felt like I wasn't. They're excellent at what they do, you know. God bless them. But they don't want what I want. And I felt like when I was trying to say things, I was only copying and saying the things that they told me. So when you mentioned this curated list of podcasts and us just watching anime and I watch Super Smash Brother videos, I think that there's a lot of value in finding people who don't have big followings, who are not very listened to, and bringing that into your marketing. We talked about this last podcast because if you can't be the first one, be the first one in a category. So like I was asking Marcos, what's the biggest narco in Colombia? Like ever. He's like, oh well, Escobar, right? Who's the second biggest narco in Colombia? Who knows, right? Nobody knows. But if I ask you, who's the biggest narco in Mexico that you know of? Like, oh, Chapo, right? El Chapo. And I think that it's valuable that if you find somebody who's crushing it in a small niche, taking those ideas and bringing them into your niche, that makes you the first one off a category, which people see you as the authority on that. So that's why I'm not big on following the people everybody follows, because then you know the same things everybody knows.
Pull up my can you pull up my Twitter feed? I just made it. This funny divine timing. I was just gonna bring this up. I made a tweet 2 days ago, and it was basically there's these 3 new accounts that popped up on my feed, and I was like, these are really interesting accounts. 3 different accounts, super niche and high level. The profile picture is just a solid color, blue, red, and pink. There's people in the comments were fighting over, are these the same person? Are they not? Is this a conspiracy? It was really funny.
Oh, is it Sunburn Firm?
Yep.
Bro, you that guy's
so awesome. My tweet got 55 likes. Like I was very surprised. My new favorite genre of X accounts is the solid color PFP who drop consistent value, and I'll show the camera. And it's these guys. So I'll give you their ats. It's the Law Shorts, and he's a business attorney, tax law and real estate. Entropy Chaser, and he's like direct response. And then there's the Sunburn Firm, and he's an enterprise tech CEO and international wealth management. And I was like, these are the most niche, and combined, they have about 10,000 followers, all 3 accounts. So they have like 1,000, 4,000, and 9,000 or 6,000 or whatever. And I was like, this is my new favorite account because they drop consistent value. They're so niche. They're basically a niche of one. How many enterprise anonymous tech CEOs who do international wealth management strategy are there? Like, how many business tax law attorneys in the world are there, right? So these are really cool accounts, but it's not just that. They're also posting really good content that's highly, highly valuable. And that resonated with me. So I made that tweet, and it kind of goes with what you said is I think they're all basically just the first in their niche. Maybe not the direct response guy, but definitely Sunburn Firm and Law and the business tax law guy, because they're not just posting like tax law advice. They're posting against the grain, little known advice, little known hacks, and they're staying anonymous. And it's really cool. Behind the scenes of an enterprise tech CEO, like really almost like the dark, like the underground world of tax CEOs, the underground world of law. So these are really cool. So I think there's a big opportunity for high authority CEOs, doctors, etc. There's another one that I saw, and I put him in my swipe file that's coming out next week. It was Bowtie Dentist or Bowtie Dental. And
the Gator?
Yeah, Gator Dentist. He basically just posts against the grain dental advice. And I literally looked it up because I was telling JK, I'm like, there's 1 million doctors, there's 1 million dentists. There's so many people in this country and world. and that are high authority that don't really have a social presence. So I was like, you know what? I need to really make this swipe file about everyone, not just for the agency owners, not just for the coaches. This is for everyone. So I even looked up dentist, just typed it in on Twitter, and this guy came up and he's posting like really controversial dental advice. And I'm like, this is awesome. And I think there's a huge opportunity over the next few years for these dentists and doctors and tech CEOs and lawyers to come in and build real personal brands. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, this is a part where Marcos gets super high level. He just knows everything that's going on in the world. He just Hubermans me, and I'm like, okay, Marcos, like, how do you post things? Like, how do you make money?
I'm gonna accidentally convince JK to go make $5 million a month.
Let's go.
It was an accident, but it's happening.
Yeah.